Initiating combat sequence.
Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. In this video I want to try and finish off all those little jobs I keep saying I need to do in the other videos. So these are the TN-VDP version 1 board, the VGA out for that board, and a few other little bits and pieces I want to get sorted. I'll also show you again the cable with the foil on it, and we'll go through. I'll make up a slightly shorter one just so you can see what I'm doing, and I'll look at showing you a few of the tools and stuff that I've got in case you haven't seen that before. So grab yourself a drink, a nice comfy chair, something to snack on if you're a little bit peckish, and let's get on with it.
New upgrades available.
Right guys, so we are back at the board now. Hopefully let me know what you think. It's a different mic, and it's just that with the boom mic I had issues with banging and tapping it, and you were getting the noises coming through, and when I moved away from it you lost my voice quite badly at times. So we'll try this out and see how this one goes, and if this one is better, let me know. If it's not, well, we'll look at something else. Anyway, as I was saying in the past, this is the TN-VDP version 1 board. Now this is the one that has the option to have the VGA out on it. There's a little bit of information about that. You just got to be a wee bit wary of, is that when you buy the D subs for them, one thing to remember is that the board needs the female, not the male plug. And the difference is, this is a male plug. Sorry, I'll just try and get it into focus for you. Now, this is a male plug, and you can see the pins on the bottom there. Now, this is a female plug. The difference being is that the pins, when they're arranged in their grids, go opposite directions. If you get a male one, it physically will not fit in the board, and you'd have to try and put it on upside down, but that won't work. You need to get the female version, and that has the pins going in the right direction to put them on here. So just don't get mucked up with that. So it's quite easy to do, to look at it and think, oh yeah, it's just a plug, yeah, I'll get the male ones. You buy the male ones and they don't fit, because the locating pin on the side is on the wrong end, and that's what I'm saying. If you put the male and the female next to each other, you'll notice the pins run off in opposite directions. So just be mindful of that. So it is the female one you need, not the male. So I'll put one on here to make sure they fit, and they fit fine. So that's on here fine. So we've got all the bits we need here. That's the Tang Nano, of course, and I've only got that to line these pins up that are going on here. I'm not fitting that to this board because that's a spare I've got to make up later on. So what I've got the 3 IC sockets for the 3 chips, and that's for the 74 LVC 245AN chips that need to go into this. Now I'll just tweak you around a little bit. Ooh. Right. Oh, I'm falling downhill now. Get you a bit better. No, it's still a bit downhill, but better than nothing. Okay, so they have to be the LVC chips. They can't be just standards, because they've got to be non-inverting. That is the issue. So it's the same as the version 2 board, same chips. And also on here, because of the VGA header, we need a set of 90-degree header pins. And these are just standard 2.54 header pins to go into there. And then there's one to go on the other side. So you need 2 of those. So we have 2 of those. We have the 3 sockets. These are the round tune header pins that go underneath. And these are the ones that plug into your motherboard, that go into that socket. And you'll need to get a round tuned pin socket for the motherboard. The reason we go with the round tuned pins is it's a better connection, and it's a more stable connection. Your standard sockets like these, as you see, these are the tinned press to fit sockets most ICs go into. You can get them in the 40 pin as well, but the problem with these is over time they flare out and they get sloppy when the chips are in and out and with movement. They're not as good a quality as the tuned pin. So that's why we say get tuned pin if you're going from the motherboard from this board. The other thing we'll need is some header pins to go into the version 1 board that the Tang Nano pins are going to plug into when it goes in on top. Now we need these because it's got to raise it up high enough, because once these go in and the IC goes in, it needs a bit of height. So, and those are just general purpose headers, inline headers. I mean, if you want to, you can use them for all sorts of things. Some people use them for IC sockets by cutting them down to the size they need. These are fine for doing the Tang Nano. The other thing we need is 3 filter caps. These are 0.01 UF. Don't have to be extremely high voltage. 50 volts or somewhere around there is about standard, I think, for the small ones. We need a Schottky diode, something sitting in around, what we say, it's about 20 volts, 1 amp, like a DO41 or something like that. So we need one of those. I got 2 because I got another board to do. We need 2 47 ohm resistors. They are to go onto this board, onto the daughter board. We need 3 470s. So there. There. 3 470s. We need 3 1K. We need 3 2.2K. And we need 3 4.7K. Now these all need to be roughly around about a quarter. They say a quarter watt resistors. It's not pulling a lot of current, so a quarter watt should be fine. And any extra header pins we need for the board itself. Now there's one thing this board uses on the version 1 is they have a switch here, 4-way pin switch, and that's like one of the little ones that go on which you use a pen or something to push the little connectors across on. I don't have any, so there will be a list of what the jumpers do, and you only change it for what you're putting in and what you're setting the Tang Nano, the TN-VDP up. You just need to reset those jumpers for what you're using it for in what type of machine. So what I will do is, rather than that for now, I'm just going to jumper it manually with some wire, and I'll probably just use some leads off the end of some resistors or something like that. Alright, so that's everything we need. I have got the cable here because I'm going to show you how I do that, and how I worked out that it shields it, and we'll be all good to go. So what I'll do is I will put some music on for you, and we'll get on assembling these boards. There's nothing really I need to tell you that you don't already know. The only bit will be when I come up to doing the ribbon cable. We'll get on with it. Okay, so as you see there, I've got those all done. I used a few little bits and pieces to hold things in place, and as you saw, when I was doing the resistors, I just got another PCB, laid it on it, and put it down. It just keeps everything in place while I tack them all in. Then once I've done that, then I can take that away and solder them in and cut the legs off, and as I usually do, retouch them after I've clipped the legs off. It makes it look nicer. So that's the VGA connector done. That's the Mark 1 with the VGA connector on it for the TN-VDP. Now, I don't, as I said, I don't have the jumper block for this. I'll see if I've got something on an old board I can salvage to put on here. I'm just not, if not, then what I will do is I'll look at the jumper settings on the website and then I'll jumper it how I need it. Normal jumper blocks are just they're too narrow to go in there. They just won't fit. So those two are done. That's the header for that, and that uses the same sort of cable as the cable that goes from the little daughter board to this board on the version 2. Sorry, because this is the version 1 board. So the little board that goes from here to here is the same header that goes from there to the VGA. Sorry, that one there. So it's just that sort of cable. It goes from there to there. That's all it is. Just I think it's 20 pin from memory, 16, 20 pin, something like that. So yeah, so that's your version 1 board. Your version 2, as I said, that's why they changed them. This one here, I put the header pins on the 90 degree. Now I forgot that these headers actually stick through a bit higher when you solder them in, and that's caused them to rock up slightly on an angle. You'll probably see it if I can hold it in there. You'll see they don't sit actually flat. You can get them flat if you want to heat them up and push them down. It just raises the legs up, but then if they go too far through the holes, you may not actually get them soldered in properly. But those seem to be alright, and then you put them side by side. They are lower than these, and you've got to remember that the header goes onto that, which brings it up again, whereas these, they'll go out the side. So when these cables plug on, they will go on the side of it. So they will come out the side, rather than when they plug in on the other way, they come up through the top, so they actually sit up higher. So this way they actually sit down lower. And that was the issue I was having on the 328. When I did that, I found that it was this way they'll be fine. When they were plugging in on top, they were sitting up too high, and they were actually pushing on the keyboard. You could do one straight up and one off on an angle. The other thing I thought is the Tang Nano pins that come with the Tang Nanos, when you see them compared to a normal one, they are a lot lower. So whether you could adjust the height on it. I mean, these cheaper ones too, you can actually push them through the plastic. So whether you push them down a bit so that they were lower down, so they're only just through the tops, and then you'd get a nice flush mount. But these were made like this to be small format boards, so there was not a lot of room taken up in the machine. But I'll see how that goes and see if that's worthwhile carrying on using that or not. And as you saw, I actually changed it around, because I have these on the Tang Nano board, not on this, as I was going to put them on, because that's the Tang Nano out of the one I've already done. I thought, I don't want to muck this up and put it on back front, so that's the way I've done it. So I put it back the way that it should have been, which had the header pins on here, so that the Tang can actually plug in on top. So those are all done. The next thing is the cable. So I mean, this is a ribbon cable. This was the size I was going to do with the kits, and then I found I had issues with them, and that's why I had to cut them right down to that size. And that's not a lot of length. When you put the Tang Nano next to it, that's not a lot of length of cable to move it around. Even that's not. But what I found is using foil or foil tape, that's the standard length of the cables you can get as a standard. You can get bigger and smaller, but that was the standard ones I got, because I got them. I thought, oh yeah, I just bend them in half and cut them and make them make them into 2 cables, and then I found that these ones were too long. This is just tin foil, just normal cooking foil, and all I did is I just put it in, wrapped it over, get that one out of the way. I just wrapped it over a couple of times, make it as tight as you like, just a couple of times, and then cut it. And then once it's cut, because it is a aluminium foil, it will be conductive. So then all I did is I got wide clear tape, just packing tape, and I just cut a strip, put it in the middle, wrapped it around, and then cut a piece and put it on the other side. So what I'll do is get some scissors, and what this also does is the tape also insulates the foil, so you won't get any shorts. Now you can make the ends a little bit shorter, like I did on the long one, so that you know you're covering all the foil, and it's not going to be a little bit of it exposing. I don't see a big issue with it, but it just helps to be. So I mean, that goes like that, and then I just put another piece that side, turn it over, and wrap it back that way, and then that'll insulate it, and then you can have a longer cable, and that makes it a lot better in the case. The other, as I said, the other way you can do it is you can buy this, and we have it at our what we call our $2 shop, which is one of our Asian shops. You know, the cheap shops you can buy Chinese and overseas made goods, and it's a foil tape. Now I'm not sure it's got a plastic film on it or not, so you might need to put tape over the top of it. But this is self-adhesive, so you can cut this to the length you need, peel the backing off, stick it on, turn it over, fold it over, put it on, and the width it is, it'll be just about big enough to do the whole cable width. So you can use that. I mean, that's a two-step process as well, but if you want something that looks a little bit tidier and a little bit more professional, that would be the way to go, would be to use that. I haven't tried this, but I might pull this off and try it on here, and later on I'll get back to you and tell you if it worked or not. But I mean, that's a crude method that I had in the 328, and that worked fine. I did not have an issue with it. And moving it around, there was no artifacting or losing the signal or anything like that. So that's all I think it was, is that the high level electronics on here and the speed it's running at, the noise from the motherboard on the old vintage gear is causing interference in these, and that's what's causing the problem. And just by putting this in, it's shielding it from that when it goes out, when it goes from the motherboard into the version 2 board. So that I think is really good. Now the other thing is you could possibly, if you want to mount this one, the VGA, further away from this, you may come, I haven't heard of it, but you may come to the same issue, that when it goes in, the length in it, it might pick up interference or noise. So just be mindful, you might have to do the same thing with this. This is a shorter cable and not as wide. So one strip of that should be enough to go right over the whole thing. It's up to you what you want to do, but as I said, I found this works really well. I will pull this off and I'll try putting some of this on and see how I go with it. As it is, guys, that's about where we are for doing this stuff. So what I will do is I will take a short break and I'll clean all this mess up and get it tidy, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about a few bits and pieces, tools of the trade and stuff that I've used, and shortcuts and things I've found that have helped me. So if you need to, take a break, pit stop, whatever you need, top up the drink, grab something else to munch on, and we'll get back into it. See you shortly. Hi guys, welcome back. What I'm going to do is I'll just give you a bit of a brief rundown on bits and pieces that I use. You may find them handy or useful, you may not, but everybody's got information everybody else needs. What we're going to do is I'll take you on a bit of a run around. The little camera, I'll point to you the bits and pieces that I have under the bench, and I'll leave the overhead one there because most of the small stuff I'll just show you on the overhead. It's a better camera. But as I said, let me know what you think of this new mic. It stays with me when I move. I've found in the past that when I'm doing things and I move away from the boom mic, you lose me. Just let me know what you think of this, if this is any better. Anyway, what we'll do is I'll pick the little camera up and I'll just show you the first couple of things I've got under the bench and one of the project we built. I'll put a link to that project in the description below, and if you want to build one of these, build one. I've had a few people saying about the earth on it. It doesn't run on earth. The earth is linked directly. If you have an isolated bench, you don't need an earth, okay? So if you're running a varistor or an isolating transformer, you don't need the earth because you're isolated from the mains. But yes, you do. If you're plugging this directly into mains, make sure you do put the earth link from the power in to where your power is going out. So just make sure that is connected. Right, so that's the first of the main tools I use on my bench. And you can see it down there. It's a Hands Kit 909D Plus 4-in-1. Now this has a power supply which can go up to 15 volts, single or dual channel, so you can get 30 volts max. You can actually do it for testing voltages, or you can have it for output voltages, depending on what you want to do. The other thing it has, hot air, which is here, which this auto detects. When you lift it out, it cuts in. When you put it in, it cools down and turns off. Really nice feature. Adjustable temperature. The voltage supply is adjustable too up here, but not in the current, just in the power. The other one is the soldering iron, and digitally adjustable again. And that's it sitting up here. Changeable tips, and I have a range of tips for that. I've got the pencil tip in it, but I usually use a number 2 tip in it. I put that in when I was doing the fine SMD work on the TZX Drino, and I haven't changed it back, and I found I was struggling a little bit doing the soldering on the boards we were just doing. That's because of the way these fine tips work. I find the very ends of them, it takes a long time to get heat into anything, and they tend to burn and not hold the solder. So that's why I tend to like these wedge shaped ones. Another thing is this is the speed control for the hot air, so that adjusts how fast the fan blows inside here. These are the power leads for the power supply. This also has a built-in 2 amp 5 volt USB port in it as well, so if I needed 5 volts at 2 amps for a USB item, I can plug it into here and run it off this. The other piece of hardware that was a godsend, and this is my Pros Kit S331 vacuum desolderer. And this has an adjustable temperature to set up. This changes between Fahrenheit and Celsius. Filters in here, rechargeable filters in here. Filters are in there. I'll just turn this off. They're easy to use. I mean, you just pop that, it flies back, you can take this out. Now, one piece of caution is that these tubes are glass. When you buy them, they are glass. The problem I had is I went to clean it one day, I popped it open, took the tube out, put it on the bench, it rolled off, hit the floor and smashed. And back then when I got this, which would have been 3 or 4 years back, trying to get spare parts for these was quite hard, and you had to actually buy a whole new unit. So I tried to work out what I could do, and I actually found there was a company selling pen tubes. Turners would turn up pens and pencils, and that for displaying them for sale, they had these tubes which had little plastic toppers at either end, exactly the right size for that, and cheap as. So, and I got 2 out of 1 tube. So they sold them in about 3s or 4s, I think they were. So I bought a bunch, and it is a plastic, and as you can see, you might be able to see, it is deforming a little bit from the heat. But for what I paid for it, I am quite happy, and in that if I drop it, it doesn't break. The next piece of kit that I have is what is on my channel and we built. And this is a dim light bulb tester. So what this is if we plug a device in and we don't know if the power supply has an issue, we turn the light on and we turn the power on. Now if we plug something in and turn it on, if there's a short in it, the light bulb will come on. And it stops us blowing the fuse and blowing things up. That is the dim light bulb tester, or limiting current tester. The next piece of gear that I have that I don't use very often is the oscilloscope. That's a 30 megahertz dual channel. Come around and I'll put you back up there and we'll get sorted to carry on. But as I said, those are my main tools that I use for doing a lot of stuff now. The other things that I use is a nice screwdriver set. Now these are really cheap on the net. Magnetic insert, so when you put in either an extension or a tip into them, they are magnetic. The other thing you may want to do is to get yourself some long tip screwdrivers, because some of the old gear was quite deep in the holes that the screwdriver had to go into. You can get types like these, and these are just from the hardware. So that's like screwdrivers and all sorts of different types. The other thing you're going to start needing nowadays are Torx, and they're the little star head type ones. They do have them in these, but some of your gaming consoles and that you may not have the right size for it, so keep an eye out for that. Other things you'll need are brushes. These again, you can buy them from the Chinese shops, the $2 shops. This is a nylon one. They usually come in a pack of 3. You usually have a nylon, you usually have a brass one, and you usually have a metal one. The brass and the metal ones I don't use with a lot of this sort of stuff. On metal cases, yes, but the nylon ones are good for cleaning boards. The other thing is just cheap $2 shop paintbrushes. I try to get the hair ones if I can. I don't like the nylon ones because of the static electricity. But these are nylon, and these are just the cheap paintbrush ones. And I look for the hard bristles on these, and I use these with the isopropyl for cleaning the boards. They're really good for that, along with that for cleaning boards. And this is good for getting rid of dust and stuff. And the other thing you'll need are tweezers, and as I was saying a while ago, these are locking tweezers or suture pliers. Now, if you've got a doctor and he's a good friend, and you know him fairly well, or someone you know knows one, they do have old ones of these that are no good and they can't really use for much, and they generally chuck them somewhere. And they are surgical stainless steel, which means they have a lot more give in them than normal. But what I do is I use them when getting stuff. You put them on and they lock. But there's that sort of stuff you need. And then your cutters, you can get your cheap cutters, and these sort of things you can buy online. But they are what they are. They're not expensive. If you buy them individually, they're like $2 or $3 each if you buy them online. Those sort of things you need. And you'll also need heavier pliers as well for doing things. And probably a little crescent as well. Nut drivers. I mean, these kits have some nut drivers, but a crescent is handy for certain things, especially for taking knobs out of things and stuff. And pliers, you can get plier kits, which come in with flush cutters, which are the ones that have the noses that come together. So flush cutters, you get the side cutters, and you get these pliers, and you get the long nose ones too, which I have, but I can't put my hands on them at the moment. And the other thing would be things like markers, just your vivid markers, paint markers. I get the fine tip ones too, because when you'll see on some of the repairs I've done, I'll put dots, especially on keyboards that have lots of screws in the back holding the board onto the front of the keys. Sometimes they have more holes than they have screws in them, and I put the dots next to the holes where the screws go, so I know where they go back in. The other things I do carry that I find are really handy, now these are little metal files, but I find they're good on plastic and all sorts of things. And the other thing is emery boards. The other thing that's really handy are safety blades. Now these are single-sided scraper blades, and you can actually get the single-sided razor blades which has the piece of metal across the back. Solders and different size cores of solders. You can get different thicknesses. Now some of this solder I've been given the newer type of solder, which is not as good. You want to get leaded solder. The other things you're going to need are, as I said, flux. Now this is Amtech flux, basically the same thing. It all works pretty much the same. Different containers, different names on them. This sort of flux is pretty standard all the way through, even though it has a different name and that on it. The other thing you'll probably need to get yourself of is some heatsink compound. I just look at getting a good quality silver mixed compound. I find the silver ones dissipate the heat a lot better. Other things would be things like your isopropyl. This is a little litre container, I think, 2 litre container. This one's just about empty. I do have a replacement which is a 4 litre one, and it's not that expensive to buy. Of course you need things like your cotton buds, handy towels, things like that, you know, just your general stuff you're going to need. Other things you're going to need is obviously a multimeter. Now this was a cheapie one I bought when I couldn't find my other good one. The only issue I find with this one is it doesn't have the beeper built into it for continuity, which is a pain. Other things you'll need is things like drill bits and stuff like that, and a mini drill. When you can get one and afford one, is get a Dremel, or this is a rotary tool. It's like a Dremel. This is a cheaper brand. It's a Fuller. There's a few others around, but it takes all the same style of bits. Works the same ways. Comes with the flexible lead on it if you want to hang it up. A flexible lead to put it on. The other thing I had to, I didn't have to get, but I wanted to get, was an ESR meter for checking capacitors and that, because a lot of work I do, people want me to replace capacitors in them in case they're bad, and I like to check the ones I'm putting back in just to make sure that they are okay. So an ESR meter. So I mean, you can go on and add and you do over time, you know. There's things you find that you'll add as you go along. Now a lot of you know of AliExpress and that, and you probably have seen and heard about Temu, which is another sort of AliExpress type thing. There's been some bad rap with Temu and that as well, but as with any of these online sites, you have to be careful. Now, so long as you don't give away too much information, you're fine. But some of these sites have things, if you've got a tablet and you like playing games and filling in time and that, some of them actually have ways of earning points, and you can get gear for earning points. I got into playing some of these games on Temu, and I tell you what, it's not bad. Takes a while, but what I got with my first set of items that I won through playing the game, it took me about 2 months. One of the first things I got was this. Now this is an Anang multimeter. It's not their top of the line version, but it does have the beeper in it, whereas the other one doesn't. Comes with the booklet and everything, come with the probes. They're not great, so I mean, and it takes standard leads, so I can swap those other ones over. Didn't have a 9-volt battery in it, so I had to put one in, but for free, I'm not complaining. So the first game, that's where I got this one from. There was 3 items, so that was the first one. The second item I got in the same game, this is all one at the same time, was this. So if you're into development boards and things like that, this is what I got. An Uno. All ready to go. Comes with the header strip, the USB cable. That was the second item I got. Third item I got, just to see if it's going to be of any use, is this. And this is a storage case. This one pops open, and then it has these mini storage boxes in them. Now I thought caps, so for your small capacitors, resistors, transistors and stuff. This one I think is a 30, it's a 28 or a 30 case ones. They have them that go up to 40 odd. So, and I thought, well, that's pretty handy. And then it can be closed up and stacked. And then you could write on the front what's in here, and you can go resistors from blah 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 to blah blah blah, and you can stack them up on the shelf, and then you can take out the one you need without losing them all over the place. With playing these games and that online, it's costing me a little bit of time. Do it in the evening when you got spare time. If you don't work, just do it during the day. Free postage, so you're not putting anything in other than your name and address. No bank account information, nothing like that. They ask you for a review on the products, and that's all you got to give them. There are those options. So if you're finding it hard to buy gear and you have a little bit of free time, they have this sort of stuff. This 3D printing, they have hot ends, gear, motor kits. They have robotic kits. They have all sorts of things. Jump on and have a look, you know. It costs you nothing to have a look, you know. And they do components, transistors, capacitors, resistors. They do electronic kit packs, which have all sorts of bits and pieces in them. They do SCR kits. They do all sorts of stuff. Screwdrivers, tools, everything. So guys, I mean, that's just some of the stuff, and some of them are bits and pieces, and just a little bit of information on that, that may help you. The other thing I did, now I got this because the wife brought home a watch from work that they said, oh, it doesn't work, it never worked since the day we had it, and she brought it home. So I went on Temu and got this, and this is a complete kit for doing watches. Now it has all sorts of, it's got little screwdriver units and a little hammer, decent tweezers and that with it. So I mean, you can buy them when they're on special and that on there for, I think it's about $12 or $13 for a complete kit, and get some useful tools out of it. Just keep your eyes open and see what's around. I do a bit of 3D printing, and I always find that a set of these, now this sort of stuff you can buy on Temu or AliExpress, electronic verniers, and you can set them to millimeters or inches, and the inner and outer diameter, that sort of stuff, you know. I mean, the other thing is things like this, micro USB connectors, they do so much stuff, it is not funny. I think that's enough prattling on from me at the moment, and hopefully this has been enjoyable and a little bit intuitive for you. So hopefully you found this interesting, and there's stuff you can use in this, and it gives you a bit of insight into stuff I use. The only other thing I will say that's essential, you're going to need, is some sort of a programmer. And this is my old TL8662 Plus. These are getting a little bit dated, but they are cheap, and they still do most of the stuff you're going to need to. And I bought this one off AliExpress, and it comes with all the add-ons, all the extra bits and that. And as you can see, a lot of these are still wrapped up. I've never used them. There's only a few of them that I do use. A lot of these newer versions of the 8662 don't do the higher voltages for reading really, really old chips. So that may be an issue with some of them. Some of the old PLAs and that, they won't read them because they don't go to that voltage. Or writing some of the old ROMs, they won't go to that voltage because a lot of them are USB driven, so they can't pull the power they need to do it. Something else, I find I don't have a digital camera as such, but I find this was just a cheapy one I got online. I find it's really good if I'm trying to look at stuff on boards and that I can't see. And that's the other thing I use. I buy hobby glasses. My eyesight's not the greatest nowadays, but close-up stuff I usually use 1.5s. And you can get all the way up to 3 times. And the 3s and the 4s I use when I'm doing close work on circuit boards. there's so many more bits and pieces. A lot of them you don't use a lot of the time, but when you have it and you think, hang on. So guys, thanks again, and hopefully this has been really, really entertaining for you. And if not, wake up. I'm just about to finish. I've had a couple of people who've seen some of my older videos that have been thankful that I've done them because it's given them a bit of insight into something. But as I say, get a hold of me in the descriptions down below. I do check them and make sure there's nothing sitting there that's not been answered. Have a great one, guys, and until next time, ciao.